Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Reading Little Blue Books out loud while stoned. This is Little Blue Book number 18, titled The Idle Thoughts of an Idle Fellow, and this will be part 3 of this book. No copyright date. Generally, these are all been copyrighted 1920s. This one is written by Jerome K. Jerome, The Idle Thoughts of an Idle Fellow. Okay. Let's see. We'll go back. I should like to know, too, by what mysterious law of nature is it that before you have left your watch to be repaired half an hour, someone is sure to stop you in the street and conspicuously ask you for the time? Nobody even feels the slightest curiosity on the subject when you've got it on. Dear old ladies and gentlemen who know nothing about being hard up, and may they never, bless their gray old heads, look upon the pawn shop as the last stage of degradation. But those who know it better, and my readers have no doubt noticed this themselves, are often surprised, like the little boy who dreamed he went to heaven, at meeting so many people there that they never expected to see. For my part, I think it a much more independent course than borrowing from friends, and I always try to impress this upon those of my acquaintances who incline toward wanting a couple of pounds till the day after tomorrow. But they won't all see it. One of them once remarked that he objected to the principle of the thing. I fancy if he had said it was the interest that he objected to, he would have been nearer the truth. 25% certainly does come heavy. There are degrees in being hard up. We are all hard up, more or less, most of us more. Some are hard up for £1,000, some for a shilling. Just at this moment, I am hard up myself for a fiver. I only want it for a day or two. I should be certain of paying it back within a week at the outside, and if any lady or gentleman among my readers would kindly lend it to me, I should be very much obliged indeed. They could send it to me under cover of Messrs. Field and Turr. Only, in such case, please let the envelope be carefully sealed. I would give you an IOU as security. Idle Thoughts on Vanity and Vanities. All is vanity, and everybody's vain. Women are terribly vain. So are men. More so, if possible. So are children, particularly children. One of them, at this very moment, is hammering upon my legs. She wants to know what I think of her new shoes. Candidly, I don't think much of them. They lack symmetry and curve and possess an indescribable appearance of lumpness. I believe, too, they've put them on the wrong feet. But I don't say this. It is not criticism, but flattery that she wants, and I gush over them with what I feel to myself to be degrading effusiveness. Nothing else would satisfy this self-opinionated cherub. I tried the conscientious friend dodge with her on one occasion, but it was not a success. She had requested my judgment upon her general conduct and behavior, the exact case submitted being, "What do you think of me? Oh, peas, well, me." And I had thought it a good opportunity to make a few salutary remarks upon her late moral career, and said, "No, I am not pleased with you." I recalled to her mind the events of that very morning, and I put it to her how she, as the Christian child, could expect a wise and good uncle to be satisfied with the carryings on of an infant, who that very day had roused the whole house at 5 a.m., had upset a water jug and tumbled downstairs after it at 7, had endeavored to put the cat in the bath at 8, and sat on her own father's hat at 9:35. What did she do? She was grateful to me for my plain speaking. Did she ponder upon my words and determine to profit by them and to lead from that hour a better and nobler life? No, she howled. That done, she became abusive. She said, ooh naughty, bad uncle. Ooh bad man. Tell Ma. And she did, too. Since then, when my views have been called for, I have kept my real sentiment to myself, like preferring to express unbounded admiration of this young person's actions, irrespective of their actual merits. And she nods her head approvingly and trots off to advertise my opinion to the rest of the household. She appears to employ it as a sort of testimonial for mercenary purposes, for I subsequently hear distant sounds of Unky said me good girl. Me dot to have 2 binkies, biscuits. There she goes, now, gazing rapturously at her own toes and murmuring pity, 2'10" of conceit and vanity, to say nothing of other wickednesses. They are all alike. I remember sitting in a garden on sunny afternoon in the suburbs of London. Suddenly I heard a shrill treble voice calling from a top-story window to some unseen being, presumably in one of the other gardens. Gamma me nude boy! Me merry dude boy, Gamma! Me dot on Bob's knickerbuckies. Ooh. Why, even animals are vain. I saw a great Newfoundland dog the other day, sitting in front of the mirror at the entrance to a shop in Regent Circle and examining himself with an amount of smug satisfaction that I have never seen equal elsewhere outside of Vestey Meeting. I was at a farmhouse once when some high holiday was being celebrated. I don't remember what the occasion was, but it was something festive, a May Day or Quarter Day or something of that sort, and they put a garland of flowers round the head of one of the cows. Well, that absurd quadruped went about all day as pecky as a schoolgirl in a new frock, and when they took the wreath off, she became quite sulky, and they had to put it on again before she would stand still and to be milked. This is not This is not a Percy antidote. It is plain, sober truth. As for cats, they nearly equal human beings for vanity. I have known a cat get up and walk out of the room on a remark derogatory to her species being made by a visitor, while a neatly turned compliment will set them purring for an hour. I do like cats. They are so unconsciously amusing. There is such a comic dignity about them, such a "how dare you, go away, don't touch me" sort of air. Now, there is nothing haughty about a dog. They are "Hail, fellow well met" with every Tom, Dick, and Harry they come across. When I meet a dog of my acquaintance, I slap his head, call him opprobrious epithets, and roll him over on his back, and there he lies, gaping at me, and doesn't mind it a bit. Fancy carrying on like that with a cat. Why, she would never speak to you again as long as you lived. No, when you want to win the approbation of a cat, you must mind what you are about and work your way carefully. If you don't know the cat, you had best begin by saying, "Poor pussy." After which, add diddums in a tone of soothing sympathy. You don't know what you mean. You don't know what you mean any more than the cat does, but the sentiment seems to imply a proper spirit on your part, and generally touches her feelings to such an extent that if you are of good manners and passable appearance, she will stick her back up and rub her nose against you. Matters having reached this stage, you may chuck her under the chin and tickle the side of her head, and the intelligent creature will then stick her claws into your legs, and all is friendship and affection, as so sweetly expressed in the beautiful lines. I love little pussy, her coat is so warm, and if I don't tease her, she'll do me no harm. So I'll stroke her and pat her and feed her with food. And pussy will love me because I am good. The last 2 lines of the stanza give us a pretty true insight into pussy's notions of human goodness. It is evident that in her opinion goodness consists of stroking her, and patting her, and feeding her food. I fear the narrow-minded view of virtue, though, is not confined to pussies. We are all inclined to adopt a similar standard of merit in our estimate of other people. A good man is a man who is good to us, and a bad man is a man who doesn't do what we want him to. The truth is, we each of us have an inborn conviction that the whole world, with everybody in it, was created as a sort of necessary appendage to ourselves. Our fellow men and women were made to admire us and to minister to our various requirements. You and I, dear reader, are each the center of the universe in our respective opinions. You, as I understand it, were brought into being by a considerate providence in order that you might read and pay me for what I write, while I, in your opinion, am an article sent into the world to... Oh, excuse me. Where'd we go? Okay. In order that you might read and pay me for what I write, while I, in your opinion, am an article sent into the world to write something for you, to read. The stars, as we term the myriad other worlds that are rushing down beside us through the eternal silence, were put into the heavens to make the sky look interesting for us at night. And the moon with its dark, mysterious, and ever-hidden face is an arrangement for us to flirt under. I fear we are most of us like Miss Poyser's bantam cock, who fancied the sun got up every morning to hear him crow. 'Tis vanity that makes the world go round. I don't believe any man ever existed without vanity, and if he did, he would have been an extremely uncomfortable person to have anything to do with. He would, of course, be a very good man, and we should respect him very much. He would be a very admirable man, a man to be put under a glass case and shown round as a specimen, a man to be stuck upon a pedestal and copied, like a school exercise, a man to be reverenced, but not a man to be loved, not a human brother whose hand we should care to grip. Angels may be very excellent sort of folks in their way, but we poor mortals in our present state would probably find them precious slow company. Even mere good people are rather depressing. It is in our faults and failings, not in our virtues, that we touch one another and find sympathy. We differ widely enough in our nobler qualities. It is in our follies that we are at one. Some of us are pious, some of us are generous, some few of us are honest, comparatively speaking, and some fewer still may possibly be truthful. But in vanity and kindred weakness, we can all join hands. Vanity is one of those touches of nature that make the whole world kin. From the Indian hunter, proud of his belt of scalps, to the European general, swelling beneath his row of stars and medals. From the Chinese, gleeful at the length of his pigtail, to the professional beauty, suffering tortures in order that her waist may resemble a peg-top. From the draggle-tailed little pony Stiggins, strutting through 7 dials with a tattered parasol over her head, to the princess sweeping through the drawing-room with a train of 4 yards long. From airy winning by vulgar chaff, the loud laughter of his pals, to the statesman whose ears are tickled by the cheers that greet his high-sounding periods. From the dark-skinned African, bartering his rare oils and ivory for a few glass beads to hang about his neck, to the Christian maiden selling her white body for a score of tiny stones and an empty title to tack before her name, all march and fight and bleed and die beneath its tawdry flag. Aye, vanity is truly the motive power that moves humanity, and it is flattery that greases the wheels. If you want to win affection and respect in this world, you must flatter people, flatter high and low, and rich and poor, and silly and wise. You will get on famously, praise this man's virtues and that man's vices, compliment everybody upon everything, and especially upon what they haven't got. Admire guys for their beauty, fools for their wit, and boors for their breeding. Your discernment and intelligence will be extolled to the skies. Everyone can be got over by flattery, The belted Earl, is the correct phrase, I believe. I don't know what it means unless it be an Earl that wears a belt instead of braces. Some men do. I don't like it myself. You have to keep the thing so tight for it to be of any use, and that is uncomfortable. Anyhow, whatever particular kind of an Earl a belted Earl may be, he is, I assert, get overable by flattery, just as every other human being is, from a duchess to a cat's meat man, from a plowboy to a poet, and the poet far easier than the plowboy, for butter sinks better into wheaten bread than into oaten cakes. As for love, flattery is its very lifeblood. Fill a person with love for themselves, and what runs over will be your share, says a certain witty and truthful Frenchman, whose name I can for the life of me remember. Confound it, I never can remember names when I want to. Tell a girl she is an angel, only more angelic than an angel, that she is a goddess, only more graceful, queenly, and heavenly than the average goddess, that she is more fairy than Titania, more beautiful than Venus, more enchanting than Parthenope, more adorable, lovely, radiant, in short, than any other woman that ever did live, does live, or could live, and you will make a very favorable impression upon her trusting little heart. Sweet innocent, she will believe every word you say. It is so easy to deceive a woman in this way. Dear little souls, they hate flattery, so they tell you. And when you say, "Ah, darling, it isn't flattery in your case, it's plain sober truth," you really are, without exaggeration, the most beautiful, the most good, the most charming, the most divine, the most perfect human creature that ever trod this earth. They will smile, a quiet, approving smile, and leaning against your manly shoulder, murmur that you are a dear good fellow after all. Man, chauvinistic pigs. By Jove, fancy a man trying to make love on strictly truthful principles, determining never to utter a word of mere compliment or hyperbole, but to scrupulously confine himself to exact fact. Fancy his gazing rapturously into his mistress's eyes and whispering softly to her that she wasn't on the whole bad looking, as girls went. Fancy his holding up her little hand and assuring her that it was of a light drab color shot with red, and telling her as he pressed her to his heart that her nose, for a turned-up one, seemed rather pretty, and that her eyes appeared to him, as far as he could judge, to be quite up to the average standard of such things. A nice chance he would stand against the man who would tell her that her face was like a fresh blush rose, that her hair was a wandering sunbeam imprisoned by her smiles, and her eyes like 2 evening stars. There are various ways of flattery, and of course you must adapt your style to your subject. Some people like it laid on with a trowel, and this requires very little art. With sensible persons, however, it needs to be done very delicately, and more by suggestion than actual words. A good many like it wrapped up in the form of an insult, as, "Oh, you are a perfect fool, you are. You would give your last sixpence to the first hungry-looking beggar you met," while others will swallow it only when administered through the medium of a third person, so that if C wishes to get an A of this sort, he must confide to A's particular friend B that he thinks A is a splendid fellow, and beg him, B, not to mention it, especially to A. Be careful that B is a reliable man, though, otherwise he won't. These fine, sturdy John Bulls who hate flattery, sir, never let anybody get over me by flattery, etc., etc., are very simply managed. Flatter them upon their absence of vanity, and you can do what you like with them. After all, vanity is as much a virtue as a vice. It is easy to recite copy-book maxims against its sinfulness, but it is a passion that can move us to good as well as to evil, Ambition is only vanity ennobled. We want to win praise and admiration, or fame, as we prefer to name it, and so we write great books and paint grand pictures and sing sweet songs, and toil with willing hands in study looms and laboratories. Pause for hydration. Good tea. We wish to become rich men, not in order to enjoy ease and comfort. All that any one man can taste of those many may be purchased anywhere for 200 francs per annum. But that our house may be bigger and more godly furnished than our neighbors, that our horses and servants may be more numerous, that we may dress our wives and daughters in absurd but expensive clothes, and that we may give costly dinners of which we ourselves individually do not eat a shilling's worth. And to do this, we aid the world's work with clear and busy brains, spreading commerce among its people, carrying civilization to its remotest corners. Do not let us abuse vanity, therefore, rather let us use it. Honor itself, but the highest form of vanity. The instinct is not confined solely to Beau Brummels and Dolly Vardens. There is the vanity of the peacock and the vanity of the eagle. Snobs are vain, but so, too, are heroes. Come, oh, my young brother bucks, let us be vain together. Let us join hands and help each other to increase our vanity. Let us be vain not of our trousers and hair, but of brave hearts and working hands, of truth, of purity, of nobility. Let us be too vain to stoop to aught that is mean or base, too vain for pretty selfishness and little-minded envy, too vain to say an unkind word or do an unkind act. Let us be vain of being single-hearted, upright gentlemen in the midst of a world of knaves. Let us pride ourselves upon thinking high thoughts, achieving great deeds, living good lives. And that's the end of that. Next chapter. Idle thoughts on getting on in the world. Not exactly the sort of thing for an idle fellow to think about, is it? But outsiders, often see most of the game, and sitting in my arbor by the wayside, smoking my hookah for contentment, and eating the sweet lotus leaves of indulgence, I can look out musingly upon the whirling throng that rolls and tumbles past me on the great high road of life. Never ending is the wild procession. Day and night can you hear the quick tramp of the myriad feet, some running, some walking, some halting and lame, but all hastening, all eager in the feverish race, all streaming life and limb, and heart and soul to reach the ever-receding horizon of success. Mark them as they surge along, men and women, old and young, gentle and simple, fair and foul, rich and poor, merry and sad, all hurrying, bustling, scrambling, the strong pushing aside the weak, the cunning creeping past the foolish, those behind elbows, those before, those in front of kicking as they run at those behind. Look close and see the flitting show. Here is an old man panting for breath, and there a timid maiden, driven by a hard and sharp-faced matron. Here is a studious youth reading How to Get On in the World, and letting everybody pass him as he stumbles along with his eyes in his book. Here is a bored-looking man with fashionably dressed women jogging his elbow. Here, a boy gazing wistfully back at the sunny village that he never again will see. Here, with a firm and easy step, strides a broad-shouldered man. And here, with stealthy tread, a thin-faced, stooping fellow dodges and shuffles upon his way. Here, with gaze fixed always on the ground, an artful rogue carefully works his way from side to side of the road and thinks he is going forward, And here a youth with a noble face stands hesitating as he looks from the distant goal to the mud beneath his feet. Now into sight came a fair girl, with her dainty face growing more wrinkled at every step, and now a careworn man, and now a hopeful lad. A motley throng, prince and beggar, sinner and saint, butcher and baker and candlestick maker, tinkers and tailors and plowboys and sailors, all jostling along together. Here the consul in his wig and gown, and here the old Jew clothesman under his dingy tiara. Here the soldier in his scarlet, and here the undertaker's mute in streaming hatband and worn cotton gloves. Here the musty scholar fumbling his faded leaves, and here the scented actor dangling his showy seals. Here the glib politician crying his legislative panacées, and here the peripatetic cheap junk holding aloft his quack cures for human ills. Here the sleek capitalist, and here the sinewy laborer. Here the man of science, and here the shoeblack. Here the poet, and here the water rate collector. Here the cabinet minister, and there the ballet dancer. Here a red-nosed publican shouting the praises of his vats, and there a temperance lecturer at 50 quid a night. Here a judge, and there a swindler. Here a priest, and there a gambler. Here a jeweled duchess, smiling and gracious. Here a thin lodging-house keeper, irritable with cooking. And here a wobbling, shuddering thing, tawdry in paint and finery. Cheek by cheek they struggle onward, screaming, cursing, and praying, laughing, singing, and moaning. They rush past side by side. Their speed never slackens, the race never ends. There is no wayside rest for them, no halt by cooling fountains, no pause beneath green shades. On, through the heat and the crowd and the dust, on, or they will be trampled down and lost. On, with throbbing brain and tottering limbs, on, till the heart grows sick and the eyes grow blurred, and a gurgling sound tells those behind they may close up another space. And yet, in spite of the killing pace and the stony track, who but the sluggard or the dolt can hold aloof from the course? Who, like the belated traveler that stands watching fairy revels till he snatches and drains the goblin cup and springs into the whirling circle, can view the mad tumult and not be drawn into its mist? Not I, for one. I confess to the wayside arbor, the pipe of contentment, and the lotus leaves being altogether unsuitable metaphors. They sound very nice and philosophical, but I'm afraid I am not the sort of person to sit in arbors smoking pipes when there is any fun going on outside. I think I more resemble the Irishman who, seeing a crowd collecting, sent his little girl out to ask if there was going to be a row, 'cause if so, father would like to be in it. I love the fierce strife. I like to watch it. I like to hear of people getting on in it, battling their way bravely and fairly, that is, not slipping through by luck or trickery. It stirs one's old Saxon fighting blood like the tales of knights who fought against fearful odds that thrilled us in our schoolboy days. And fighting the battle of life is fighting against fearful odds too. There are giants and dragons in this 19th century, and the golden casket that they guard is not so easy to win as it appears in the storybooks. There, Algernon takes one long last look at the ancestral hall, dashes the teardrop from his eye, and goes off, to return in 3 years' time, rolling in riches. The authors do not tell us how it's done, which is a pity, for it would surely prove exciting. But then not one novelist in 1,000 ever does tell us the real story of their hero. They linger on it for a dozen pages over a tea party, but sum up a life's history with He had become one of our merchant princes, or he was now a great artist with the world at his feet. Why, there is more real life in one of Gilbert's patter songs than in half the biographical novels ever written. He relates to us all the various stops by which his office boy rose to be the ruler of the Queen's nave, and explains to us how the briefless barrister managed to become a great and good judge, ready to try his breach of promise of marriage. It is in the petty details, not the great results, that the interest of existence lies. And I think we'll stop there. That is the end of part 3 of The Idle Thoughts of an Idle Fellow, written by Jerome K. Jerome, Little Blue Book number 18. Thanks for listening, and join me in part 4.